Yeah, well, my main job is I'm a farmer. I'm a dairy farmer from West Wales. We milk about 1,000 cows on the lush pastures in the North Pembrokeshire area. But also have various other little operations that are going on as well. We actually rear grass-fed Wagyu beef for the UK market, and I'm also a trustee of the Royal Agricultural Societies of the Commonwealth, and I have special responsibilities for the under 40s group, the Next Generation group. Yeah, I think I'd be fairly well opinionated on this. I do believe that agriculture, for all the talk and the technology that comes from bigger organisations, it's really the people on the ground that actually make agriculture tick, that make it happen. So regardless, I suppose, of the size of the business, it will always be the people. Now, whether they're farmers who own the land or lease the land or work in bigger organisations or cooperatives, I don't think that really matters. But what does matter is that the people on the ground actually get rewarded for the hard work that goes in. Yeah, well, this is my third, if not fourth, visit to Singapore now, and I always find it really inspiring what Singaporeans manage to do with a very small land base. It's quite incredible. Now, I would assume, and I'm making a big assumption here, that it's quite capital intensive in terms of the cost of production is therefore going to be slightly higher. So I think urban production is great in the situation that Singapore finds itself. Maybe not quite as relevant to the rest of global agriculture at the moment. But the other thing that it does, which is very, very important, is that it connects the consumers to agriculture. When they're seeing the areas of production in and around the city, as you do in Singapore, it's got to be a good thing for all Singaporeans to understand where their food comes from. Very strong opinion on, and I think you're right. The days of penicillin may well be coming to an end, and I think there's probably three areas of technology that we need to develop, and we need to develop particularly fast. And we are developing particularly fast. Number one is vaccines, and I think as a dairy farmer, I'm seeing more and more vaccines coming to the marketplace to help me control animal disease. The second one is what I would call sort of bioscience. So we're now using positive bacteria to try and displace bad bacteria, in essence, in our milking system, and that's working particularly well. And I think the third one, and it's a sort of combined one, would be big data. So we're recording a lot more about our animals, and this is helping us make breeding decisions. So that, along with genomics, gives us a sort of third plank in our fight against animal disease. So I think you're absolutely right that the time of penicillin may well be coming to an end, but fear not, I think we've got some other solutions up our sleeves.
Well, I'm Sheng Gen Fan, Director General of International Food Policy Research Institute, so at IPRI. So we are working to do research to help the poor and hungry people to eliminate their malnutrition issues. But right now in the world we are facing so-called triple burden of malnutrition. 800 million people still suffer from hunger, they do not have enough to eat. 2 billion people suffer from lack of micronutrients, iron, zinc, vitamin A, and so on in their food. And another 2 billion people are suffering from overweight and obesity. So we provide research, we provide data, we provide evidence for decision makers, whether it's the government, private sector, to work to produce healthy, nutritious food for everybody in the world. Well, from supply side, yes, we will face some challenges, like you said. The climate change, declining water and land bases. So the new technologies must be part of the solution. So newer technologies from research organizations, like newer varieties, rice varieties, wheat varieties, vegetables, fruit varieties, livestock, they must produce more, the more output with less. Maybe less water, less energy, less fertilizers, less inputs. So more with less. So new technologies, there are lots of new technologies to do that. But also new institutions. So how we can work together, how the farmers can work together with the private sector through contract farming, through corporations and so on. Institutional innovations can also help to produce more with less. And thirdly, policy. So right now, we have certain policy failures that we use too much subsidies to support more production. So like water subsidies, fertilizer subsidies, electricity subsidies, output price subsidies. These subsidies do not produce healthy, nutritious food. Normally they produce stable crops that do not have much nutrition, which is very much needed. But fruits, vegetables, beans, dairy production are equally important. So we must remove some of these subsidies to use these subsidies to support production of fruits, vegetables, even dairy production. Now from the demand side, we must ensure that everybody in the world has income or has a mean to access to healthy, nutritious food. So accessibility is equally important. How do we do that? One is obviously social protection. The poor, hungry people must be protected. Yes. So they must be guaranteed to access to healthy, nutritious food through maybe income or through food transfer. And equally important in the longer run, these productions must help them to graduate from their hunger, their poverty. For example, to find a job so they can earn an income, so they can buy food, or help them to produce more healthy, nutritious food if they are farmers. Well, urban farming obviously includes all kinds of different definitions. For example, some urban farming really means the farmers around the cities can produce more. That's called peri-urban farming. Urban farming could also mean that some business people invest in technologies, factories to produce food. They're called factories to produce food. So highly automated, highly mechanized. So vertical farming, or let's say or highly sort of technology intensive or capital intensive farming. We have seen many cities like Singapore, Shanghai, Beijing, New York, Washington, and so on. So you see different types of urban farming. I think we should allow different urban farmings to grow, to experiment, so we can select the best one. So there is no best urban farming. I think there's only best fit, not the best. So one important dimension is that we have to evaluate whether this farming can also help to reduce carbon emission, help to reduce the use of energy. Because some of the highly automated farming, mechanized farming, use electricity, use water to produce food. And other urban farming can also produce food with little water, or even with little electricity, for example, using solar panel. So there are different types. So we must evaluate its impact on climate change, on the use of natural resources and so on. Then we also have to make sure that there are not millions and millions of small farms in many poor countries. How can we make sure that urban farming could also help them? I think there are opportunities to help them, yes. For example, these smallholders can be linked to urban farming through internet, through supply chains. So the smallholders can provide some raw materials for urban, let's say, food manufacturers to produce healthy, nutritious food and reduce the prices of this nutritious, healthy food. So urban consumers will be able to buy affordable foods, not without destroying our environment, and help smallholders in rural areas. Well, I think the certain regulations are needed. For example, if we wanted to introduce certain new technology, biotechnology, we must assess the impact of these technologies on our food production, productivity side, on farmers' income, and on consumers' prices, right? If the price is too high, obviously consumers will suffer. And we must assess the impact on our environment. There are some misperceptions that certain biotechnology will hurt the environment. And there are some misperceptions that certain technology could also affect our health. So we need evidence. At least from our studies, we have not seen biotechnology, including GMO, that have affected people's health. So proper regulation, proper assessment based on scientific evidence will be so critical.